Welcome to the Live the Call podcast, where I speak with guests living and working their soul's purpose. I'm Pamela Downs, founder of Spirit Calling and trans-channeler of the Great Council of Light. Every episode, our guests share their awakening story, and together we learn how they came to live their spirit's call. Join me in tales of self-discovery, enlightenment, and transformation to amplify your healing journey. Welcome to Live the Call. Today, we're excited to welcome Hannah Chapman. Hannah is a seasoned certified financial planner and founder of X Squared Wealth Planning. With over 18 years of experience, Hannah brings clarity to the confusion of finances, empowering visionary entrepreneurs to align their money with their purpose. Join us as we explore how Hannah has answered her call to live and work on purpose, which inspires all of us to do the same. So that is what our Live the Call podcast is about. It's about inspiring and showing how when you hear, answer, and then you live the call, you know, it's possible, right? That you can do that and you can live with your soul's purpose. So welcome, Hannah. So excited to have you here today.
Thank you, Pamela. I'm so excited to be here on the podcast and just to get to connect with you again. Honestly, I've really, really enjoyed all of the time that we've spent together so far. Just, getting to talk about purpose and spirit and all the cool things.
Yeah, all the things in air quote. There's so many of them. And every time you and I speak, it's like we've just seen each other and we dive right in like immediately. And like you said, we always have such a great conversation. So your story is inspiring because, as we've discussed before, finance is a really specific energy, and being in that space, and then breaking out of it and being able to take, you know, what you're being called to do that's in alignment with your spirit's growth and your spirit's call, mold that and meld it and, you know, twist it and turn it into the new idea of what your work is, taking the old, taking the new, and refinding yourself and serving your clients in a whole different way. So I want to talk about what that journey looked like, you know, how you started out, what made you hear that call and decide to make a change. So let's go back to the beginning. I always say, you know, I always want to sing The Sound of Music. Let's go back to the beginning. Right.
A very good place to start.
It's a very good place to start. Let's start with that, back in the beginning.
Yeah. So, gosh, the beginning. When I think about one of the reasons that I was drawn into financial planning in the first place, it was because I did not feel safe and secure with money as a child. My parents were business owners from the time I was 3. I think I was 3 years old when they started their first business. And, you know, we did not, my dad's family in particular did not come from money. And we lived in a trailer when I was very little. Um, and, you know, when I was 3 years old, my parents bought their first house. It was a really small house, super cute. We've gone back and seen it a few times. Um, but it was very, very stressful. And there was just a lot of tension in our household, right? And a lot of money was a big piece of that there wasn't enough. And I know, especially now that I'm a parent, I have 3 kids, they're 13, 11, and 8. I know what that stress can feel like, right? Of wanting to provide all the things for your kids and to kind of go back and feel compassion for my own parents at that time, what that stress feels like to not be able to provide everything you need for your children in the way that you desire to. And so the reason I mention that is because a lot of my work now is around, you know, what are the money stories that you have from your own childhood, from your adolescence, from your early adulthood, right? What are the stories that you carry forward that you're making decisions from now that you don't know are on a program or on repeat from something that you don't even necessarily need to hold on to anymore? And when I was very little in that early stage, you know, from 0 to 7 is when we are just taking in the world. We don't know what's good or bad, right or wrong. We're just taking it all in. And what we experience, we assume that's how the world is for everybody. You know, when in that very young developmental stage. And so the money stories that were imprinted on me, both from my childhood experience and from my parents' experiences, was that money is hard to make. It's hard to hold on to, and it's a stressful cycle, right? All the time, that there's never enough. And so from that message, I became the child that would save everything. All the birthday money I got, like anytime I would find, coins on the ground, any way I could find or make money, I would have it and I would hold it and I would save it.
Hmm.
And, I would have hundreds of dollars in savings when I was a little kid. This is very
Did
weird
you
to
have a bank account and everything? Like, did you say that you wanted that when you were a little kid?
Yeah, my mom did start a savings accounts for us. I was
Hmm.
probably 8 or 9 at the time, and I would put all my money in there.
Hmm.
I
Everything.
Yeah, everything, right? I did not want to spend any of my money. It was very important to me to like see that in there and see um
It's
that
a
savings
security
growing.
blanket. Yeah.
Right. Right.
Hmm.
And it
Hmm.
was like the thing that that I'm seeing now, or that I did realize later on, was that even carried into my early years in this profession. So, like you mentioned, I've been in the financial field for 18 years specifically. When I graduated from college, my first job was at a bank, and I worked there for a while, and then I moved into financial planning. And those stories were there in my heart, in my body, in my soul, right? Like about when someone, is asking me about financial planning, it's about like, how do you save as much as possible?
Yeah. Yeah.
Save it, like reduce your
Hmm.
expenses, save, like cut corners everywhere you can, right? That scarcity mindset was really, really strong because that's what I knew.
Hmm.
And as I grew and as I matured through my profession, through all of that, and through the work that I was doing, um, at the firm that I was with for a long time, when I became an advisor much later. It was about 2017, um, when I moved into an advisor role, like working with clients one on one. And I really started to notice something different kind of coming through. And that it was that I could hold an emotional space for people that they were not experiencing with other advisors.
Mm.
I could create a safe space for them to be vulnerable about what was actually happening, what they were actually experiencing in their financial lives, and open the door for them to ask a lot of questions
It's
and
interesting.
really.
Did you see a contrast with your peers, like in the people that you worked with and how they were handling their clients and understanding how your approach was different than theirs? Like, were you able to see that? Yeah.
Yes, it was very clear
Yeah.
to me. It was very clear because I would sit in meetings, right? I
Mm.
would be, as training and shadowing, and like I would be sitting in meetings and like watching. And so some of
Mm.
the things that I would notice is that, a client would ask a question and the advisor would like take it in and then roll it around and answer a different question.
Hmm.
So they wouldn't actually, like, if they would ask about fees in particular or about a certain investment that they wanted to talk about, the advisor would take that in and then turn it. And then he didn't want to answer that question. It was always a he. I was the only woman in
Interesting.
in my group
Mhm.
that was an advisor, so that's accurate. Um, but they would always turn it and answer the question that they wanted to answer versus like actually meet the client with the question they were
Mhm.
asking. And the other thing I would notice too is that they would tend to just give information, tons and tons of information. And if anything emotional came up, it was like glossed over really quickly.
Wow.
Like, well, let's move past that real quick.
Yeah.
And so,
Information overload in an overwhelming, industry to begin with. You're going there to be advised and to feel like you're getting clarity and help and you're trusting that person.
yeah.
And basically it's just like everything else, just do what I say and
Mhm.
and follow the path that I'm presenting to you and just trust me. And that's
Right.
stifling too. Yeah.
Yes, that was fully the attitude that was there, and it's very prevalent just in the
Mhm.
industry in general, right? Like, do as I say, and I'm the expert, like just do this that I'm telling you, and that's the end of the story. Why are you questioning it? um is the feeling that a lot of people get. And so what I would notice is that when I would then sit with these clients by myself, they would just open up in a fully different way. Tears, like usually there were, it was very common for people to
Mhm.
be crying in my office, and just because they felt able to let their guard down and
Mhm.
to ask more questions. And I would take in what they were saying and then do my best to not only answer that question, but if they didn't understand it, like, okay, like let's come at it from this angle. And is that better? Okay, let's come at it from this angle, right? And really like flesh things out for them in a way that they could understand. And so that was one of the first things that I recognized about myself, is that again, this ability to hold an emotional space
Mhm.
in what is a very logical, or seen as a very logical meeting industry, right? People are like coming in and not noticing how much their emotions are affecting their financial
Yeah.
decision making. Um, and so through that process, being learning, shadowing to be an advisor in that practice, I learned a ton. And I say that anytime, I talk about this, I learned so much being there, and it really did shape me into the advisor that I am now, to be able to work with such a wide, beautiful array of clients and, get to know the industry, like the good, the bad, the ugly, all of it, while I was there. But it really was a sense when you say, like, what was the call?
Mhm.
The call, my higher self she was
Mhm.
screaming. She was screaming at me. By the time it was about 2019, 2020, and things were happening that, it was not going well at that point. I've shared this story on other podcasts before, that the advisor that I was taking over for was taking over. He was retiring. He was 71, 72 at the time. Um, and he had like not allowed different successors several times in a row. And he's like, nope, he can't take my practice. Nope, not that person. They were
Wow.
like, Hannah, you can be it. Like, you're the one. You're perfect for this. And I was for about a year, until I disagreed with this advisor on something that was like, no, I don't think that's the right thing to do in this case. And that moment, he decided that I was also not the right
Oh
person.
my goodness. After investing a year in that.
Right. Yeah. Meeting all the clients, working, like it
Mm.
was, it was a lot. It was a lot. And it also would have been very lucrative for me to take over that practice. Right. I mean,
Mhm.
I would have been making like somewhere in the $300,000 per year range
Mhm.
as soon as I took over that practice. And that was the carrot. That was the carrot that was dangled in front of
Mhm.
me.
That's what the universe does.
Mhm. Here's your carrot.
Right.
And so I did, I tried. And then from that breakdown of the relationship, I'm really good at having relationships and building relationships. From the breakdown in that relationship, the partners of the firm still supported me, but because this advisor that, he had built a practice and he had sold it to them and all of that, because he did not support me, the other advisor said, okay, well, we're not going to be able to give you this practice because he's going to undermine you.
Mm.
And so we're going to have to figure out something else. And through that process, as that relationship was breaking down, they were also telling me that I would not be as successful as they thought I would be. I was not going to be the
You weren't able
person.
to
Right.
handle it. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And that was the point where that was like what I can identify and feel in my body, right? My higher self saying, this is not, this is not
Mhm.
right. Like,
Mhm.
they don't know who you are. Like, that was the strongest message. They, like, you do not know who I
Yeah.
am.
Yeah. This is not in alignment with me.
Hmm.
They don't understand me. They're not seeing me. Well, their driver was totally different. Their
Hmm.
driver was, status quo, do what works.
Right.
Do what this guy's done it, and I'll get someone in there who can do it the same way.
Right.
Rinse and repeat, right? And
Exactly.
once you try to do something different, like you're doing, and you're listening to something greater than yourself, it shifts everything. And I think
Hmm.
that that's what they're not prepared for. So they had to
Yeah.
get rid of
Well,
you.
yes, yes, pretty much. Well, and I was bringing things to the table too that were like,
Mm,
that where I was seeing things that were out of integrity, that were out of alignment, and they weren't listening.
Mm.
right? And they didn't want to see those things. They didn't want to see the things that I was trying to show them, that like clients, you're not listening to your female clients. You're not connecting with them. How do I know? Because they're telling me, right? No, that's not true. Like that was the feedback. No, that's not true. We connect with our female clients. Nope. Then watch them leave. When their husbands died, they left.
Mhm.
And like I was trying to share that kind of information, like what I was seeing from my very heart-centered space in working with people. And it was what I know now is that it had to, at that point in time, at that point in my life, and at that point in my journey, it had to be painful for me to leave.
Yes. Yeah, it has to be.
Yeah.
That's the
Like,
only way it works.
yeah, like it was not, if it was tolerable, and that's what I was coached to from one of the other advisors who's like, you can, we're going to make him retire in 2 years. You can do anything for 2 years. And in my body, I was like, I can't do that.
Mhm.
I can't,
Mhm.
I will not be able, like my mental, emotional, spiritual health will not last for 2 years here doing this, repeating this cycle. And it had, like I said, it had to be that painful in order for me to finally listen
Mhm.
and know that, okay, I can either continue to build a practice for someone else that does not have aligned values, like clearly our values are not aligned here, or I can leave and build it myself. And I
Mhm.
can build from a place of like, this is who I am. This is what matters to me. This is who I want to work with, how I want to work with them. Um, and it was a terrifying step, honestly.
Mhm.
It took a long time. It took a long time to be fully confident that that was the right thing. And then I interviewed at like three other places. And through those interviews, again, it was like I heard it over and over, like, you need to do this on your own. You need to do this on your own. You need me. Okay. You want to go through like painful interview processes? Okay, here you go. Here's one. You're going to
To
cry a
prove
lot.
to yourself, right?
Yeah. Um, and, so I did that a couple of times and got my heart broken a little bit, each time. And then I was like, nope, this is why. This is
Yeah.
why, because I am meant to do this, and to build something that, again, is in full alignment with my heart. And what I can say is that the path that led me to where I am and to the group that I am, um, that is my, like my back office, my compliance, all of that. Oh my gosh, I could never have picked them out of a hat. Right? Like I would never have known that they existed, and nothing, and it just the path that got me to them and to the support that they provide for me to be me, to just be all of who I am with full support, is like, it's magical. In my
Mhm.
space, in the financial space, in the financial planning space, most advisors cannot be themselves because compliance is like this like tight
Yeah.
box that you have to stay within. You have to say all the right things. You can say only approved things. You have to, just stay really tight within your box. And I knew I had so much more to say than just like, here's how you plan for education. Here's how you plan to retire. Like that stuff is important, but it's not all of me.
Mhm.
And so it was such a gift to partner. So X Squared Wealth Planning is my firm, the name of my firm and my independent name, but I am associated with Juncture Wealth Strategies, and my compliance officer there. It's, is it legal? Is it ethical? Is it moral? Is it in the best interest of the client? Are you not
Mhm.
promising anything? Okay, great.
Yeah,
Go
you're
be
good.
you. Go, yeah,
Yeah.
you know
Yeah.
where your lane is. Go be you. Be your, like, I can be my CFP self, I can be my spiritual self, I can be all of it all together, and it's supported and held. And so
And you didn't need to know how. That's what we
right.
call the magic of it. It's like once you step into that space of saying, okay, I'm going to do this. I've surrendered. I call it your knockdown, the
Mhm.
excruciating experience that pushes you finally out of fear into love for opportunity, for future, for all the things that you have that are there waiting for you. And then once you step into that, you're there. And it's like, okay, girl, we've got you. We're going to line you up with the right compliance person. We're going to like show you new tools to use or introduce you to the right people. And it's amazing. Like it's
Mhm.
amazing. It's so,
Yeah.
I'm so happy for you.
Yeah. Yeah. The other like completely amazing alignment um with that too was that as I was like literally getting ready, I was going to launch in January 2021. I did launch X Squared in 2021, January. Um, but in December of 2020, one of my clients at the time connected me with someone who was doing a master, like a week-long master class. She was a lawyer. She had built her own law firm and been in the law for a long time. And then she was also a business coach. And so she was doing this week-long master class about something about how to, align, build a business from your heart, like something that's aligned with you. And I was like, "Ooh, that's interesting. I'm about to
Mhm.
do that." Like I want to know more. And so from that interaction, just a client was like, "Ooh, she sent me this." And I thought of you and I thought I'd forward it along. I went to that master class and I ended up hiring her as my business coach to start. And
Amazing.
and so that was the nudge, right? Also, like I am leaving, I'm lining everything up. I've got everything ready to go. I've got my business coach here who's going to help me do all the things right, quote unquote, so I don't make too many mistakes and I just do the right thing from the beginning. So that's the funniest part, I think, for me.
It's
Like,
important though. It would help. It helps you feel safe, held, supported, all
yes.
those things. And a business coach in general, just in your, if you're a seasoned entrepreneur or a new budding entrepreneur, they're really instrumental in the growth of a business. And to me, like, imagine how much you saved yourself in time and money and in all of the things. So, and you listened. So that's really amazing too, because sometimes we say the universe puts things in front of you, but you have to listen.
Yeah.
You have to make the choice to hire her, right? You have to do, put the effort behind it and have that focus and that understanding that that's there at that
Hmm.
time for you. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That was absolutely another piece where I'd never done that before. I'd
Mm,
never invested in myself. Even when I went to college, it was a full ride scholarship, right? Like I didn't have to,
mm,
again, invest in anything in that way. It was, technically I did. I put the work in college and whatnot,
yes.
but um, yeah, having like paid for, right? I'd never paid for something of that level. And that was about $60,000 that first year
Hmm.
with her. And the reason I think it's funny is because my initial thought was this is going to be, my again, I'm going to do everything right. I'm going to have all the strategies. It's going to be fine. And the very one of the very first recommendations that she made when we started working together was the book I Am the Word by Paul Selig,
Oh,
which is
wow.
a channel text. And I was listening to it and I had been like my spiritual self had been fairly dormant for I would say about 15 years at that point.
Interesting.
And I'd grown up very religious, like non-denominational, quote unquote, non-denominational Christianity, kind of a mega church style ish. But
Yeah.
my parents were very, very strict and like almost fundamentalist level. If they could, like, if they had a community like that they could have hooked into, I think my dad
They
would
would
have,
have.
yeah, right. But
There'd have been like
yeah, yeah,
diving in.
it was real close. But my whole childhood was very Christianity based and very like this is the only right way, right? Everything else, yoga is of the devil. Buddhism, anything else is
Yeah.
like Hinduism, anything with multiple gods, even Catholicism. I thought Catholics were like also bad, right? Like it was that type of Christianity that
Yeah.
Catholics are also not Christian. When I
Hmm.
found out when I took a religions class in college
That they
that
are Christian.
they're actually the original for the original branch and we were an offshoot. Right. And so it was like when I deconstructed from Christianity in my early 20s, it was from a place of I don't hate the people that I hear that I'm supposed to hate.
Hmm.
Right.
Hmm.
When, the love the sinner, hate the sin
Hmm.
piece that can come up so much in religion. Like that hurt my heart so much when I started to get to know people. Like one of the strongest examples I have of that is So I play the flute. My degree is in flute performance. And in my studio, I had a friend who was gay, and I had never been friends with a gay person before. And like that was, I literally felt in my body, I was like, I am not supposed to hate this person. I don't. Like
Mhm.
he is
Mhm.
wonderful and I love him. And I should not have these feelings come up of that there's anything wrong or bad. And
Right.
I immediately recognized that it was from like my parents' reactions, church reactions, all of that, the
Mhm.
conditioning that I had been brought up with, which I know is not the case for every Christian sect, but
Yeah, but it's there. It's definitely is there. And
right.
yeah, for sure. And
And
it's a
that was
direct contrast to love. I mean, it's a direct contrast to love, and it wasn't congruent. It just didn't make sense.
right. And so that was truly, that was the piece that, that first piece of that's not love.
Hmm.
Even like love the sin or hate the sin is not love. You're still hating a piece of that person.
Right. You're
There's
labeling it differently.
right. There's no way around that. And so that was kind of the kernel for me of I can't be a part of a religion that hates any part of who a person is at their core, right?
Hmm.
And so I really did like I pulled back, I deconstructed a lot of my Christian identity and I was like not super interested. No, I would say interested. I was just like really wary of anything that kind of touched on spirituality for a long time. And so coming back to I Am the Word by Paul Selig, as I was listening to this, it was talking about Christ consciousness and Christ consciousness. Christ, like it was like explaining and going through it. And I was like, my first thought was like, what is this? What am I listening to? Right.
Mind
And
blown.
a little bit, but I was like, oh my God, what is like, who did I hire? What is this? What's going on? And again, my higher self who had just told me, like I had followed her, she had been screaming, right? I'm listening, I'm listening, I'm listening. She said, just keep listening.
Hmm.
Just keep
Hmm.
listening.
Because you were
And
listening.
I
You
was
were.
listening. I
You were
was.
listening.
And I
Hmm.
was literally I was listening on Audible. So I was literally listening to the book. And so just keep listening. Just keep listening. I was like, okay, I will keep listening. And as I listened, I probably and then I bought the paper copy so that I could like look at it while I was listening so I could take it in more. And I listened to that book probably 3 times in a row.
Hmm.
And what I found in working with my coach at that time, her name was Jen, um, was that what I needed was not the business strategy to build my business. What I needed was to heal the pieces of myself that felt so broken
Mm.
in order
Amazing.
yeah, in order to connect with people in an authentic way. Right.
Hmm.
That was so much of especially what that first year was about. And I worked with her for 2 years actually. And the depth of the amount of stuff that I saw about myself during those first 2 years and I can remember like multiple dark nights of the soul
Hmm.
going through times where I like literally felt like I was like ripping apart.
Yeah. You're expanding,
Um,
you're up
mhm.
leveling, and you were healing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was definitely like a breaking open,
Hmm.
right? But in the moment it feels just like the breaking. And
Yeah.
afterwards like I feel broken open,
Hmm.
expanded again, right? The phoenix, I would see I had saw so much imagery of armor just burning off of me, right? Like
Yeah.
I like just consistently just burning, walking through fire. Um, and it was through that time, especially even at that point, Jen was getting more in touch with her spiritual self as well, and her journey has been beautiful to watch as well. But it was like she was helping uh like hold my hand through,
Hmm.
right? This is who you are.
That was
This
her
is
job.
yeah.
Yeah.
She was that guide for me during
Yeah.
that time. Um and getting to know my emotions, getting to feel into the intuitive parts of me, right? I've always had people tell me that they see more of me than like Like you're special somehow. Like I don't know what it is, but you're special. And I'd be like, okay, how? What do you mean? You're
Because
not
you're
like other.
open.
Yeah, and
Right. Yeah.
that's what I've come to know. But especially when I was first hearing that, I was like trying to rack my brain. But I like I don't. What do I do with that information? Like I don't know. I don't. How do I tell people? What do I do? How do I market
It's
that? Well,
all the evolution of it. It's just the unraveling of the new you that's able to
mhm,
serve in this way, who does understand what that is and how and the value in that and how
yeah.
you connect with it's a soul to soul connection. You
Hmm.
know, it's a completely different connection. So Jen held your hand in discovering and unveiling that for
Hmm.
you. It's so I almost see when you're talking, I see you holding your future self's hand moving
Yes.
forward. That's
Hmm.
what I see. Not Jen. I see you holding your future self and moving forward into the new version of yourself and and how you serve. It's
Hmm.
beautiful. It's beautiful. I'm so glad you found Jen. How did you find Jen?
It was seriously, it was like it's so serendipitous. It was a client that he was a lawyer also at the time. Um, and he had met her at a conference years before. They had like stayed in touch a little bit, and she sent him, to her list of email people, right? That like, I'm doing this masterclass. And so someone that he had met 2 years before at a conference for lawyers, he gets an email
It was
and
a whisper down the
think,
lane.
yeah, and thinks of me. And he's like, okay, like I thought of you. And I was like, well, thank you for thinking of me. And I went, right? So like again, just the synchronicity of that,
Hmm.
how that all happened and how I listened and how I, showed up and
Hmm.
showed up
And
for
for you to
myself.
be and for you to be open to the fact that Paul Selig is a channeler. Like that is not usual. That is something that is unusual. You know,
Hmm.
especially I mean 2019, 2020, 2021, there was more of that going around than there was, back when I was looking at it in 2008, 2012. I found him then. And they weren't talked about. Those things were not easily accessible. They were avant-garde, they were different. They were like down the beaten path around the corner up the street, on
Hmm.
YouTube in a rabbit hole. But for you to really embrace and receive a, a business coach that was putting that kind of material in front of you, your spirit was ready.
Right.
You were
Exactly.
ready for
I
it to
was
gobble that up.
it was like, yes, this is your next step. And all of the higher self
Hmm.
work that I did, I really like that was the other piece of that first really 2 years in my business was really tapping into getting in alignment with my higher self and listening and being open to the visions and the messages that I was receiving just about who I am and who I'm here to serve and how I'm here to serve. And kind of to come back to all of that piece of like, what do I do with this information? How do I market it? All of that. You don't. You just be.
You let it be.
You
Hmm.
just be, right? And
Hmm.
I think that was one of the, when we first connected, was when it was like, oh, like, of course I'm meeting you because that's where I'm vibrating right now, right?
Right.
Like, where like I have seen that be true over and over again is that
Mhm.
as I shift my vibration, as I sink more deeply into love, um, at every possible chance, every possible turn, like that vibration of love, that vibration of care, brings more people who are on that same vibration, right, into my life to be that reflection of yes, this is who you're being. This is who
Mhm.
you're being. And I like I had to stop and just take a beat and have gratitude. I was having a conversation with a friend the other day and we were talking about just I don't know, just like these like concepts of love and gratitude and getting to be authentic and be yourself. And I was like, oh my God, I get to have these conversations.
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
get to talk to people about this stuff now because that's what's on my heart, in my heart. That's what I'm pouring out. And it feels so nourishing. I can't even explain how different it feels
Mm.
when I really like when I look at the Dan Sullivan concept of the gap and the gain, right? When I look at the gain of where I am now versus, masking before, having to be someone that I wasn't, just, 5 years ago,
Yeah.
and feeling
Not,
so constricted and so beaten down in that space, trying to be me, but also masking so much of me.
yeah.
Uh,
And you don't know till you know. And
mhm,
there's so many people that, maybe some will be listening to this, but so many people who are, that's their world, is rinse and repeat, get up, go to work, do a job that I don't have passion for, that I don't necessarily love, with people that I don't resonate with, and I'm not
mhm,
getting paid what I would like to. I'm not, what's the end result? I go home and I get up and I do the same thing tomorrow. And it's almost like, I hate to say it, but like a soul killer. It's like
mhm,
there's no opportunity for them to even, these opportunities do come from the universe, and the gens and the whispers and the things happen. But when most of our world is just caught up in the same cycle, they're not thinking in, they're just expanding now in their conscious to have bigger thoughts, to have more ideas, to have questions, where it's not the norm. It's, you do what your dad did, you take over the practice, you do this, you do that. Like you get a job, you make good money, you save your money, Hannah.
yeah.
You serve, you do this, or you're a musician and you're a professional musician. And what kind of a salary are you going to make? Like, it's like, I'm watching my kids go through this now in college. And it's what we're told we have to do. Suck it up, you know, get a job, start paying off your student debt. And if you can save, you'll do this, you'll live at home. Like, there's all these stories that when I was waking up, I didn't have any ideas to think of anything larger than my current state of being right here, right now. What
Mhm,
was everyone else doing? What am I doing? That's what was presented. And you listened, I listened, others like us listen to something that's a different calling, that's higher frequency, that feels better. And it's scary. So it doesn't happen overnight.
mhm,
That's why it's so important for people to hear your struggle, your call, and then how it serves you and then others.
yeah.
Yeah. Did Jen teach you tools besides like listening to the channeled material? How did you learn about human design and like all of those things, and how to bring that into what you were doing? I'm so fascinated.
Yeah, yeah. So that's a fun story too. Um, to to kind of yeah, to there I'm going to address that from a couple of different angles. One, so Jen was a very involved coach. We met three times a month at least, and
Nice.
um, I would I'd have to write fill out a questionnaire before every call. And I didn't know this, but I mean, I can guess because if you ask me an open-ended question, I'm going to like give you all of the information, right? So in these questionnaires, I would spend like an hour and a half the day before, like filling out like what happened, what was going on in my world, what's showing up right now, like all of these things. Like it was always bringing me back to what am I experiencing now? What's showing up in my world? What's being reflected to me? Right? It was over and over and over again. Um, so I was really like in such a powerful state of inquiry at that point. Really, really looking closely at what was showing up in my world and what I was experiencing. And she had actually kind of in the beginning of when we started working together also had mentioned the Enneagram and suggested that try that and do the
Why
Enneagram
not?
typing. Yeah, so I did that. At the first time I did it, I thought I was a 3 on the Enneagram. Um, and later found out I'm probably more like a 7. Um, for anyone who knows what the Enneagram is, but I never felt like I resonated fully with it. It was like, it's not like I have to answer all these questions and I'm not
Yeah.
sure all the time.
It's complicated.
Yeah, and so I heard a podcast, another synchronicity, right? That a podcast of someone I followed on LinkedIn, who I did not know was like spiritual. She was also a coach, a lawyer, and a coach for
Wow.
other people, a different person. Um, and I had seen her podcast a few times, and I was like, oh, I think I'll just listen to this one specific random episode, and it was her talking to someone who had also part of the conversation. She had done the Enneagram and was like, I liked it, but it didn't quite fit for me. And then I found human design. And
Mm.
that just clicked. And I was
And you're
like,
like, bing.
yeah, I was like, hey, that's me. I don't quite resonate with the Enneagram. What's this human design thing? And so that was in early 2021. And I devoured all of the information. Once I saw it and I started reading and I got there's like a $35 kind of comprehensive report. And then I started trying to pick out all of the details. I searched online. I mean, I can't even tell you how much time I spent, hundreds of hours in that first year alone, like diving into what does this mean for me?
Hmm.
And then once I got to the point where I'm like, I am having a hard time like figuring this out on my own. I need help. I went on Reddit, and there's a subreddit for that because there's a subreddit for everything, for human design. And there was a woman that was sharing that she was doing pro bono sessions, that she was starting her human design practice
Oh,
and
wow.
needed some, to do some more practice. And I was like, oh, interesting. So I reached out to her. Her name is her name is Pam too. Jan. Her name is Jan.
Jan.
Yes.
Sounds like Pam.
And yeah, she is. And she is wonderful. And so I spent a lot of time with Jan too, learning. She was, teaching me about me, and then connection charts, each of my children, and then how do we connect, and, what's the energy that we bring together, looking at my husband, and then how he and I
Ooh.
connect. Right. And that was one of the most mind-blowing pieces for me, was to learn one. So in human design, my authority is sacral authority, which is a gut response. So it's a
Hmm.
gut, like a really strong gut reaction of like a hell yes, like, yes, this is my yes. Uh-huh. I'm leaning
Hmm.
forward. I feel it in my body. My energy is rising. Or it's a no, and it's, sinking back and like literally feeling repulsed, right? Like it's a very visceral gut reaction.
Yeah.
And what I had learned from my family and from my husband, who is a different type of authority, we've been together for a really long time. So I had had a lot of conditioning that you're not supposed to go with your gut. Your gut's not logical. Your gut didn't go through all the pros and cons of this situation. So how can you
Yeah.
trust that that's the right thing to do? And so I had had years, decades of conditioning saying,
Wow.
don't trust your gut.
Wow.
And
Wow.
that was a powerful, powerful thing for me to learn. And again, just so like I getting to know myself in that way was so powerful. And then getting to learn about my husband, who has emotional authority. Emotional authority does question, right? It
Interesting.
has to think about all the highs. What are all the ways this decision could be great? And then it has to think about, ooh, what are all the ways this decision could go wrong? Right. And it needs to come back to neutral before, and then look back and say, the good outweighs the bad. So that's a yes. Or the bad outweighs the good. So that's a no.
Mm-hmm.
That's how emotional authority works. It needs time. And that's his process.
Hmm.
And so for me to understand, right, I'm not wrong. My gut
No.
response of yes or
Right.
no
Hmm.
is not wrong. His response of, hey, I need more time to think about this is not wrong either. It's just different. It's just different. And so
It,
when I finally got to feel into that, like, oh, he's not trying to hurt me. He's not trying to burst my bubble.
he's trying to understand in the way that he needs to.
Mhm.
Can you explain to people who might not know what that human design chart is? First of all, how you acquire it? Like what do you use to how do you know how to find someone's design chart?
Yeah. So human design, if you Google human design, you'll come up with 1,000 different websites where you can get your chart. So it is based on your birth date, time, and place.
Okay.
So it's good to know your birth time as close as you can know it. If
Mhm.
you don't know, like I was born at 4:34 in the afternoon. So I know that exactly. Some places don't put birth times on their birth certificates. Texas, Ohio, like there are lots of states that don't, or places that don't. So if your mom,
Interesting.
go to your mom and say, "Hey, do you remember when I was born?" And she's like, I know it was really early in the morning, like maybe like 6." Good,
That's
good
good
enough.
enough.
Right? Yeah. Or, it was like dinner time. All right,
Mm.
let's say 7, right? Like that's good enough, but you want to have a general sense of what time you were born. So you go onto the website, pick any one you want, right? You'll Google it. We can even put some links in the show notes.
Links would be fun. Yeah.
Yeah, so that you can go in, you put in your birth date, time, place, and then it will spit out this thing that looks like a human body-ish, and it has all these little shapes, like straight from the top of the head down to the bottom, and a couple extras. And then it has, rows of numbers on either side. And so when you look at that, we call that a body graph. And what the body graph tells you is where your energy is in this life. And so you'll see some in this body graph, some of those centers will be colored in. So they'll be lit up, colored in, and some of those centers will be white. Those centers that are colored in is where you tend to push your energy out into the world.
Interesting.
Those are your lit up places where you always have energy. And the places where it's white or not colored in are where you tend to receive other people's energy, other people impressing upon you. And so that's where we get who are you? What's yourself?
Mhm.
Yourself is like who you are, what the energy you push out into the world. Your not self is what you are by conditioning from other people. It's the
Mm,
shoulds that you put on yourself from, oh, like this is how someone else does it. For me, like that mental processing or, pros and cons list, decision making, that's not self for me. That is not how I operate.
mhm.
That's how I was conditioned to operate by all of the other people in my life that either were emotional authority or thought that you have to, use only your logical processing to make correct decisions.
So interesting because I can see my grandmother like a product of the depression. She would have someone come to give her a quote on her roof, and they will give her a quote for repair or whatever. And she'd say, well, I'll get back to you on Tuesday, or I'll pay you part of it on Wednesday. Like it's a process. So it's all the conditioning that's come from her life, but it's also her human design chart, right? That she
Hmm.
needs to think about it and go, maybe she's more like your husband, but I am like you. I know in my gut, I know immediately, but then I need to think about it. I have
Hmm.
to give myself the time, but it's an immediate yes or no, like always. It's
Mm.
immediate. So I think anybody who's interested, you'll provide some links and they can check it out. And I'm going to go look up at mine too, because I forget.
Yeah, I was gonna say, are you
Yeah,
emotional? Do you have emotional authority?
I
Uh,
probably do. I would think I probably do. Yeah.
you might be, yeah, because it can be in combination too, right? You can have that initial hit of yes or no,
Mm-hmm.
right? If you're an emotional generator or an emotional manifesting generator, um, you'll get that initial yes or no
The
response, but then you have to filter it through the wave. We call it the emotional
process.
wave. Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
there are different. There are just a really brief overview. There are 5 different types in human design, and so you're either a generator. About 70% of the population is a type of generator. 37% are pure generators. About 34% are manifesting generators. So then
That's me.
that's what I am. Yeah, I'm a
Mm-hmm.
manifesting generator. Then it drops significantly. 20% of the population are projectors. And so projectors are they're a very different type of energy. They don't have the sustained energy to like do a lot of stuff. So this is like 9 to 5 job where you're constantly on, constantly working. You get burned out really fast. If you are a person who has experienced burnout many times in your life, you might be a projector. There
Mm.
might be a reason for that, that you need to literally work differently. Um,
Wow.
in your life. And then next, it would be manifestors at 9% of the population. These are also not an energy type. But they are initiators. They initiate new ideas. They initiate new things. They're like very powerful energy, almost a repelling energy is what it's called
Ooh.
in human design. And they are here to start new things is what they're
Oh,
here for, right? My husband is a manifester. I'm a manifesting
wow.
generator. So like I'm like learning all these
That's
interesting things.
cool.
And then finally there are reflectors and they're only about 1% of the population. And on their body graph, they're all open. They have no defined centers. It's completely open.
Like, who is one of those?
I don't know any
Who's a
famous
reflector?
people, but I have met two. I've met two
Really?
reflectors and
Wow.
such beautiful humans. Such an interesting energy because they're taking in Again, I said when you're where you're not defined is where you
Yeah.
take in information from others. So reflectors take in information from all over, and then they like reflect it back, right? That's what they're here, like the moon, right?
Oh,
They are like the moon, the lunar cycle, right? They are reflecting back who you are directly. They make phenomenal coaches and guides,
yeah.
right? Because they're like, all I can do is reflect back who you are. I'm taking it in and reflecting it back. Um,
Interesting. It's
yeah. So
fascinating.
it is really, really fascinating. And as I learned more about myself and as I like applied these, even the very basic principles, right? Of start like listening to myself, my own decision making authority of that yes or no response, right? um, Along with lots of other details. Because when I find something like that, I dive into all the details and I want to know all of it. But as I really started to apply this into my life, I started to recognize how much more aligned every single client was. Like every new client was more aligned than the last and over and over. And I was meeting more of the right people, right? I was vibrating, I was changing my energy in a way to be more of who I am.
Hmm.
And what I believe is that when we are all of who we are, when we show up as ourselves, it's like ringing a tuning fork. And this is like me ringing that tuning fork and singing out who I am. The people in the audience that are attuned to that
Hmm.
pitch will hear it, right? And they're like,
Hmm.
"Oh, she's the one for me." And
I love that.
it makes selling when people come to me that they're ready to work with me, it's like, "Of course you're the right one. I've been
Hmm.
watching you. I've been attuned to you."
Right. Yes. I'm in alignment with you.
Mhm.
Yeah. We're on the same vibration, the same frequency. It's beautiful, Hannah. I think that you give people hope that it doesn't have to be overwhelming. I know having gone through a divorce and having to pick up the pieces of all of the different things
Mm.
that was my marriage and then was now, the new version of myself. How do I do it? What do I do? Where do I start? And I wish I had met you back then. I did meet an aligned person,
Mm.
um, but it was scary, and it
Yeah.
was emotional, and it was a lot of energy and a lot of decisions to make, a lot of things to consider, and you really do need a trusted guide because you're guiding them, and you're guiding them through whatever muck and mess or whatever. Oftentimes, whether it's a divorce or it's just that you didn't weren't prepared, or you didn't have money to create wealth, or you're coming out of debt, or whatever it is, it's emotional because it's like it's a representation of your life.
Right.
And so you have to be able to help guide them, anchor them, give them space, hold them, make them trust you, and then co-create a vision for their future. So you pull that out of them.
Yeah.
And it's amazing. It really is. It's amazing. And I think that anyone who is feeling like they can't even think about working with a financial advisor, or it's just overwhelming to them, they don't want to do it, needs to work with someone like you, to help them. It kind of gives them an opportunity for what could be,
Yeah.
right? A world of discovery.
It is. It's such a beautiful discovery path too
Mm-hmm.
when you're ready for it.
Mm-hmm.
And when I work with clients, it's a combination, right? And this was the beautiful thing for me too, is that I was when I started incorporating human design into my financial planning process, I desired to work with people who wanted that,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like those are the people that I want to work with who are ready for the financial transformation and want to bring in that abundance mindset, their spiritual self, their authentic self. They want to know how to be even more of who they are and bring that into the financial process because our money is a reflection of the impact that we want to make,
Mm.
right? That's the people that I work with. Every time we do a plan and they see like what the money can look like later on,
It's
right? Because that's part of the
exciting.
process. The
Yeah.
excitement is the things that they say are, oh my gosh, I can do this. I can
Hmm.
help these people. I can start this foundation. I can give this away. Right? That's the excitement. That's the impact. Their idea of legacy is beyond just this insular piece. Like, what am I
Yes.
leaving for me and my kids? Right?
Right.
Which is beautiful and important, right?
Right.
We don't
Doing it
diminish
for the
that, but
world. Yeah.
right, it's so far beyond. And so my desire is to work with people who want to create big ripples,
Hmm.
who know that creating wealth and prosperity is another way that they can make those big ripples in the world. Because when conscious, caring, loving entrepreneurs are making more money, they're also that's filtering down to their employees, that's filtering
Hmm.
down through them. The concept that I have of wealth is that it's not about what you have, it's not about what you accumulate and what you keep like a dragon sitting on a hoard. It's
Hmm.
about what you allow to flow to and through you as a conduit for, you are creating this business that is opening up hearts and minds and lives, and you are receiving money for the work that you're doing in the world, and you're allowing it to flow through into the economy, right, and into the hands of other conscious entrepreneurs, of, again, your employees, your contractors, your, all the things that you pay for, all the things that you support, sending your kids to school, buying snacks for their baseball games, right? All of that stuff, right, is
Hmm.
supporting more love. And so we can use that. We can use our money in that way, and we can envision it as energy that's flowing through us for good. And we can also have our cash reserve, and we can have the appropriate amounts that will keep us safe, right? That's part of the process. You can
Hmm.
have both. And you can support the things that you want to do, and you can grow your business wildly. um and it's just that's the whole process, right? That's the thing, is that when we tie all that together, when we tie our purpose to our wealth building and our prosperity, our idea of prosperity, that's where we can really start to shift. And I want to the last thing I want to say,
No,
uh
I'm caught up in your whole, like, the energy of where you were. It's like, I'm watching your passion just permeate
uh
everything, and like it's coming, it's
yes.
pouring out of you. It's amazing.
Well, the one thing I wanted to say, and this was one of the, I heard this. I can't remember where I was, but I heard it, early on in my work with Jen again. I think I was learning how to channel, is like really what was
Hmm.
happening. But I heard that, what is your purpose? Why am I here? And I heard that your purpose is to raise the vibration of money from that of
Hmm.
power and fear to love and peace.
Hmm.
And when I first heard that, I was like, what do I do with that?
I know. It's like
Like,
build a portal for humankind. Okay, really?
yeah, like,
Okay.
what? Like,
But
how
you
do,
are, but you
yes,
are, because the people who are living on purpose, the conscious entrepreneurs who are creating impact, the ripples on the planet, are stepping into abundance and wealth. And it's starting now. And so you are needed. And so
mhm,
you are also, they say, the guides say that we are connecting, threads on the blanket that's encompassing the
mhm,
planet. And you are doing that too. You are building this blanket also. You are connecting, and that wealth is expanding and growing and creating volume. And it's like, touching everyone, like you said. So it's a different way of money. There's going to be a different currency. There's going to be a whole different energy for there's a dynamic shift that's coming to the planet, and you're a part of that. So
yeah,
that's why Jen came. That's why you received exactly the inspiration to leave when you did. 2020, 2019, huge shifts happened with people in their work and their purpose and their vision for their future,
yeah,
you know? So we're so happy to have people like you on the planet who are doing that work, and I loved sharing your story today. And I know that many people are going to be inspired by it. And hopefully, all of you're going to tell people where to get in contact with you, but you're going to list also your information in the show
mhm.
notes. Hopefully, people will reach out. And is there anything like special that you offer that you can, tell people about now so they can go and check it out?
Absolutely. Yeah. So just as my like matter of course, I have a beautiful PDF that I call Light Up Your Desires that I literally use with my clients. So this is like you're getting a piece of the initial client experience with me. But when I created it, I realized that, oh, everyone can do this. And this is really beneficial
Mm,
to take this time of contemplation, right? And it's a journaling prompt exercise. It's a, PDF that's several pages long and really takes you through think about what you want to create. What do you want to create? What do you want to experience that's different from what you're experiencing right now? What
mm,
does retirement even mean to you as a concept, right? Like just thinking about and learning about yourself in this way. And so that's been my like just free download. You can get that right off my website, super easy. Um, and if something really resonated for you and you're like, "Oh, I need to know more," I always do a free first intro call. So 25 minutes, we'll get to know each other. Just have that connection call to see if we vibe, right? That's
mm,
the biggest thing for me is that, when I'm working with people, I'm also like my heart needs to be in the right place. That just as it does for the client. So having that initial call of like what is it that you're looking for? Is that something that, my heart is calling to support you with? And if not, if it's not a good fit, I know so many awesome people,
mm.
coaches, advisors. I
Yeah.
have such a beautiful network that I can refer to as well. But there's both of those you can find on my website. I have my personal website is hannah.rchapman.com, HANNAHRCHAPMAN.com. And from there, you can navigate to my three different main projects. You can see it right there, but it's all of my ethos is the same no matter where I'm at. And
Mhm.
so that's where, okay, having the one website where you can see this is me, this is who I am, this is what I'm about. If that resonates with you, you can work with me in these different ways.
That's
Um,
excellent.
so that's
Yeah,
there.
it's wonderful. I'm so grateful that you joined us today. And anyone who's interested, I think that the free consult call is amazing that you give yourself. And it's important to be in alignment for that work. So if you're feeling the call, haha, the call, definitely reach out to Hannah and have a call.
Yes,
Yeah,
exactly.
Hannah, thank you so much for joining us today. And until we speak again, I always love our conversations. Until next time.
Same. Thank you, Pamela.
These episodes sparked insights for you on your healing journey. If you're searching for support and connection, you should join our community at spirit-calling.com. Spirit Calling is a like-minded community of spiritual individuals learning, sharing, and growing together every day. No matter what you're experiencing in your journey, you'll find resources and a community to support you along the way. Until next time, keep listening to your internal guidance and stepping into your spirit's call.